welcome to the channel. Excited to be speaking to you today about the Board Apache. I initially became aware of Board when they sent me their initial board about a year ago. And like many people, the initial Board was an absolute beast and lived up to its name because they provided so much value and performance for the price point. And now that Board has released a double kingpin board featuring a unibody enclosure, many are also wondering, does the Apache provide the same type of performance and value that we saw on the initial board? So let's get right into it. The Board Apache is composed of 1 layer of bamboo and 8 layers of Canadian maple. Now, like me, you're probably thinking that this is going to be on the stiffer side, and it is, but the ride is not too uncomfortable, and a lot of that has to deal with these wind wheels, which we'll discuss a little bit more in the video. The deck is visible through the grip tape cutout design, and when you look at the top of the deck, you will also see the company's logo. I typically don't like really large logos, but to be honest about it, the way it's structured on this board, I really don't have a problem whatsoever with this particular logo. One of the improvements on this board that I'm happy to report, the outer edges of this deck actually flares up. And that is pretty important because it allows you to lock your feet in place when you're riding and carving and pumping. One of the complaints that I kind of had about the initial Board was that the deck was just flat. So there were times where when you were trying to carve and pump really hard, you would feel like you were going to lose control when actually doing that. But that is not a concern whatsoever with this board, and I'm really liking this addition that they put on this particular deck. The next components I want to discuss are the ESC and drivetrain. But before we do so, I want to share a little bit about today's sponsor, Shred Lights. Shred Lights are considered by many to be the top lighting option for portable electric vehicles due to the quick mounting system and interchangeability of the lights between boards, vehicles, and helmets. The lights are available in multiple styles, including 1,000 and 300 lumen lights, as well as the new SLFX color changing lights. Put some safety and color on your next ride by purchasing a set of Shred Lights. Use the link and discount code in the description to learn more and save some cheese. Now back to the review. Like many other 2-in-1 boards, this board utilizes the unibody enclosure design, and of course it's going to house the ESC and then also the battery components. This board is utilizing the newest and most updated Hobbywing ESC, and what that allows riders to do is to select from 4 different speed modes, but on top of that you also get standby mode. Many of you know that I'm a huge fan of standby mode because it allows you to turn on the board by simply turning on the remote. So as a result, you don't have to bend over to try to turn the board on and things like that. That can be pretty cumbersome, especially if you're using public transportation and you want to turn your board on really quick. The battery is composed of a 12S4P configuration at 520 watt hours. And in my opinion, that is a lot of value there, especially for the price point of this particular board. A lot of other boards that are providing this type of setup may cost a few $100s more. So definitely getting some added value there. Board advertises that the range on this board is up to 36 kilometers. When I did my range test on this board several different times, I got anywhere from 16 to 20 miles on the board. And of course, we know there are so many factors that actually impact and dictate range. Rider's weight, terrain, weather, temperature, all of these different things. The time where I got the lowest range is actually when I was doing a group ride. And in that actual ride, as you can see, there was dozens of EUCs and they were just riding hard, and of course I was keeping up with them, so I was utilizing a little bit more power and energy, so I didn't get as much range as I typically do. But nevertheless, I think that for a board in this price point and this setup, I think that what I was actually able to experience was not bad at all. Riders who weigh less than I do or live in areas where there's way less inclines and such, you're going to get a lot more range out of this board. Of course, this board is utilizing belt drive, and with belt drive you get a variety of different benefits. One of which is the fact that you're able to change out your wheel options. So with this particular board, riders can utilize the wind wheels that come standard with the board, or you can upgrade to pneumatic tires as well. And some would say, well, I like the wind wheels, why do I need to maybe utilize AT type wheels? And it may depend on where you ride. Some individuals want to actually get a little bit more off-road type of experience. But then also if you live places where the roads are just really crappy and really bad, pneumatic tires can really kind of help eat up those cracks and those vibrations and create a very comfortable ride. One of the other things that I found with pneumatic tires is that they're excellent for new riders. It's one of the reasons that I'm actually switching my son to an AT board with pneumatic tires, because even though he's a skilled rider, it just makes me feel more comfortable knowing that he's able to ride over almost any type of terrain and situation. And that's the same with this particular board if you were to utilize the AT wheels that you can actually purchase at an additional cost. Now, of course, if you put on the larger wheels, you may lose some range and some torque and some acceleration, but oftentimes people are not opposed to making an adjustment like that because you get so much comfort and safety margin when you utilize those type of wheels. Two areas that I'm excited to report on as an upgrade to the previous Beast board is the acceleration and torque on this board, and you can definitely feel a difference in my opinion. But then the biggest factor that I just really enjoy about this board is that the braking strength has increased dramatically on this board. The braking curve is so much more improved over the initial Beast board. That was one of my other nitpicks with the initial Beast board, is that I just felt like the brakes didn't have enough bite when you were slamming on the brakes. Was it smooth when you used the brakes? Yes. But oftentimes when I'm riding fast or aggressively, I want those brakes to really bite. And I'm so happy to report that this new Beast board Apache, the brakes are like really good. Very impressive stuff right there. And this is going to take me into my nitpick section. And to be honest about it, even with the initial Beast board review that I did about a year ago, I didn't have a lot of nitpicks, and that's because I feel like Beast board is providing so much value and performance for this price point that it's kind of hard to nitpick things. But there were a couple of things, well, there was one thing in particular that I feel like I need to mention. When the Beast board arrived, everything was put together well, but in my opinion, the trucks were just too loose. Now, the screws were not loose and going to fall off or anything like that, but they definitely needed to be tightened. Now, as a heavier rider, I often have to tighten my bushings and such anyway, just because I'm heavier and I want to try to get that stability. But I'm mentioning this because somebody who is buying a board in this price point, this may be their very initial board that they've ever had, and they may not be aware that, hey, you could tighten these bushings to get a little bit more stability. So that is probably the only nitpick that I have about this board, was that the trucks were just like really loose to me. But once I, of course, tightened them down, I felt comfortable and stable. But I just think that that's something important to mention, because somebody who is new, they may not be aware that, hey, I can tighten my bushings, but then when the bushings were as loose as I thought they were, and that just could be the durometer of the bushings, or just the way that the double kingpin trucks sit. I just think that that was something to mention. But like I said, once you tighten up the trucks, you feel pretty stable when riding around, so no major complaints there. This is going to take me into my final thoughts, and as I mentioned and have alluded to throughout this review, this board is providing a lot of value and performance for the price point. Now, when you look at this, a board that's under $1,000, giving you a 550 watt-hour battery, giving you speeds anywhere from 28.5 miles to 30 miles an hour, giving you a range, as they estimated, up around 30-ish type miles per hour. That is a lot of value. And I think individuals who are looking for a board that provides a lot of value and performance but doesn't break the bank, I think that this particular Beast board, the Apache, or even the initial Beast board, is definitely a board that individuals should consider and look at, because you're just getting so much value and performance for this particular price point. As it currently stands, Beast board is running a lot of different specials, as they do throughout the year. If you are interested in getting a Beast board at the best possible price, please check out the link in the description, and I often put discount codes there with it as well, so that you can get your board at the absolute best price. Remember, PEVs allow you to be everywhere, and I will see you at the top, because the bottom is too crowded. Peace.